Welcome back. We have the great privilege of being joined today by Ambassador Chas Freeman, one of the great American diplomats who also served as the U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense. So thank you for coming back on the program.
Great to see you, Glenn.
Yeah, likewise.
Good.
We know that, well, the U.S. and Iran are now striking each other again. Trump is yet again threatening to eliminate Iran. We see that Israel and the government in Lebanon signed an agreement, which at least the Israeli media are celebrating as essentially setting the stage for a civil war within Lebanon. This happened all very quickly after the Memorandum of Understanding, we were told was going to put an end to this war and bring peace to the Middle East. So what is it that has gone wrong, and where do you see this heading?
Well, I think it should be called the Memorandum of Misunderstanding, because it's very clear that there is no understanding underneath it. And Donald Trump either has forgotten what's in it, I mean, he did sign it, or he didn't understand it to begin with, or he's simply doing what he usually does, which is renegotiating what he has apparently agreed to. So we see all sorts of new terms being added by the United States, and the United States basically continuing to contest the outcome of the war, which is the establishment of Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz. The Memorandum of Understanding says that ships will be permitted out of the strait under arrangements managed by Iran. And Iran will not charge tolls for 60 days until August 21. That's in the agreement, along with right up front. This agreement depends on the elimination of the war in Lebanon and the withdrawal of the Israelis and a ceasefire. So every single element of this, the basic premises on which the Iranians were to open the strait, has been violated by either Israel or the United States or both. So what we've seen in the Strait of Hormuz is an effort to pretend that the United States and the British Navy can control it by bringing tankers out without regard to the procedures that Iran has established, which the MOU appeared to acknowledge. And Iran has naturally then enforced its control of the strait by attacking these ships. That has led to retaliatory strikes by the United States, first on a basically symbolic level, and then more recently, a more savage level. And that, in turn, has led to Iranian strikes on bases, U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, which appear to have been quite serious in the amount of damage they've done, although, as usual, censorship and the servile nature of the Western press have kept the facts obscure. So we're basically seeing an illustration that this so-called memorandum of understanding, which is basically an agreement to seek agreement, not itself an agreement of any sort, is not in effect. Tit for tat retaliatory process is in progress. The survival of the MOU is in doubt. Israel has successfully defied the American agreement with Iran. The Lebanese government, this Lebanese government, which has now acknowledged Israel's right to be in southern Lebanon, and agreed to that Israel will withdraw in accordance with Israel's own judgments on a gradual basis, and that Israel and Lebanese government, Lebanese army will cooperate in smashing Hezbollah, which is the only effective resistance to Israel. This government is going to be remembered with all the affection that the French bestow on Marshal Pétain. So I think what we're seeing is, I'm not sure you can call it unraveling, because I'm not sure there was anything knitted together in the beginning. But certainly what is happening is a return to chaos rather than order in the whole of West Asia. I haven't even talked about Syria, which Israel has also been bombing. And Gaza, of course, continues to be subjected to genocidal squeeze, and the West Bank is in the grip of pogroms and expulsion orders, ethnic cleansing. So ethnic cleansing is going on in southern Lebanon. Basically, the Lebanese government, which is hostile to the Shia population majority in Lebanon, is cooperating in ethnic cleansing in southern Lebanon. And we're seeing everywhere the denouement of 78 years of Israeli dedication to the Great Area Zero Project and expansionism to borders beyond whatever de facto borders exist. Israel has no agreed borders or frontiers. So this is quite a mess. And I should add that the reason that Donald Trump fantasizes about the MOU containing provisions which it doesn't, or tries to add them, and is served by Secretary of State Rubio, who basically went to the Gulf to affirm Donald Trump's fantasies about the Strait of Hormuz with a mostly cooperative GCC, not entirely, mainly with Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE, although I gather that there were representatives of Saudi Arabia and Qatar present for the meetings. I don't think there was an Omani presence. And basically, this is a classic effort to renegotiate what has been established on the battlefield and at the negotiating table. And it's not working. So Iran is not going to give up control of the Strait of Hormuz. It has, there's the legal department of the Israeli Foreign Ministry famously declared that international law advances through violations, that violations of law establish new bases of legal norms. And Iran has established such a norm potentially in the Strait of Hormuz. And this is not a good thing because it means that other straits, whether they are the Bab el-Mandeb, Lombok, the Strait of Malacca, Sunda, the Strait of Taiwan, and so forth and so on, all potentially face control by littoral states who will then charge administrative fees for transit. So the freedom of navigation, which is enshrined, by the way, in early Islamic law, as well as by Hugo Grotius, the great Dutch legal scholar who wrote Mare Liberum, the freedom of the seas, when it's 1619 or so. All this is collapsing. So quite a mess.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of defining it. But I think most people realize that the MOU wouldn't be necessarily followed. That is, Trump expressed his need to get the oil out, and he agreed to terms which seemed very unlikely he was going to fulfill. Indeed, he was contesting these points even as it was put down on paper. And so I guess ignoring the rest was predictable. But so how do you understand then the resumption of attacks on each other? Would this be the United States trying to, as you said, renegotiate, that is, to punish Iran if it tries to, follow the parts of the MOU which it wants and hope that they won't retaliate? Or do you just think this is now, they're not going to be able to put an end to the war? Or is there a pathway to the ceasefire? Or it's just very hard to, in this.
We have an assumption that all wars must end, but sometimes they don't. Basically, if you look at West Asia, Israel has been at war with everybody on an intermittent basis, but still it's all one great war, really, since before its establishment. I mean, the earliest Zionist settlers had a plan for ethnic cleansing, which they carried out. in 1947-48, and which they've repeated on other occasions, including after the 1967 war, when some 300,000 Palestinians were driven out of their homes. So this area has basically been at war, I would say, since the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the European carve-up of it in the Sykes-Picot Agreement. There's been basically conflict, and the only question is, what is the intensity of the conflict? So we may be going back to that situation. That is more of the same, that in fact there will be no agreement to end the war. This is a contest of stamina, a war of attrition. How long can the United States continue to blockade the blockade? And wear and tear on ships and personnel is very considerable. The wear and tear on the American global reputation is very considerable. Basically, what unites everyone who is at war with the United States, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Russians, the Iranians, the Venezuelans, the Cubans, what unites them all is the conclusion that the United States is agreement incapable. It is not able to do a deal. Well, deal is the wrong word, because a deal is inherently transactional. And as you know, in diplomacy and foreign relations, every negotiation is not just negotiating a transaction, but negotiating a relationship. The United States apparently doesn't understand that, and therefore imagines that it can approach foreign relations in the same way that real estate developers approach property owners or buildings in New York. And so if you want to redevelop a property, you evict the tenants. That's ethnic cleansing. In effect, you want to do a deal, you read The Art of the Deal, written by Donald Trump, not the one that Andy Borowitz has attributed to Mustafa Khamenei. I don't know if you saw that, but Andy Borowitz, who is a comic genius in the United States, happens to also live in New Hampshire, although I've never met him, said that, tongue-in-cheek, that Mustafa Khamenei had won a major literary prize for a new work called The Art of the Deal, the main premise of which was that in order to win in a negotiation, you must always negotiate with a moron. Maybe that is exactly what is happening. Maybe it's no more profound than that, because there is no constancy. The American word doesn't count for anything. The signature of Donald Trump, ornate as it is, with a Sharpie pen, heavy-duty ink, is might as well be invisible ink. So this is, for me as an American, I find this deeply disturbing. We have succeeded with the Israelis in trashing international law, in destroying the basic trust in our diplomacy that is essential to advance our interests. We have destabilized situations everywhere. And in the middle of this, Donald Trump, having been frustrated in his pursuit of a notable victory in West Asia, seems to be pivoting back to